This is Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.
I shudder thinking how the world can be so cruel. I lend my voice to those who can't. It's time we try, it's time we care, it's time we stand. It starts with a voice.
Welcome to the Special Chronicles show. My name is Daniel. I'm the founder of Special Chronicles and a Southern Tribal International Global Messenger of Special Olympics. And this is episode 465 of the Special Chronicles show. SpecialChronicles.com for links to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And be sure to also subscribe or follow and rate and review this podcast, Special Chronicles, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to hit that subscribe or follow button and rate and review us. It goes a long way to let more people know about the show. And be sure to also subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Special Chronicles, so you can watch the live stream video episode of this Monday, 6 p.m. Central Time. And you can also sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. You can find all that on SpecialChronicles.com for links to subscribe and follow. And our guest this week on the Special Chronicles show is Sergeant Bill Devine, Director of the Illinois Law Enforcement Torch Run. Will be please put your virtual hands together as we welcome Bill to the Special Chronicles show to talk all about how you listeners can be bold, how you can get cold, and how you can Polar Plunge this year in 2022. Welcome to the Special Chronicles show, Bill.
Thanks, Daniel. Appreciate the invite.
Yeah. And in doing the before you introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us your connection, I can't find the notes where I wrote some notes down in the pre-show. I can't find the note at the moment, but I believe you were on. I was looking back in the archives, and I think it was episode, I don't know, in the 50s or something, like one of the back in 2013 when I went out to the Super Plunge, and I recorded a podcast out there. I forgot exactly which episode number that was, because the podcast for 13 years. There's hundreds of podcasts now, but I think you were on one of those early episodes.
I was on one of your earlier shows. I do remember you coming out. We were at the tent. That was when you were working off the handheld microphone and a big shoulder strap and a big gadget that I would never even know what it was. But no, I do remember talking to you on that. That was a good time. Yeah, it was a good time.
So now, for any new listeners, because I'm now, that was quite a few years later, and now hundreds of episodes later, I'm sure we have some new listeners. So why don't you tell us about your connection to our disability community and your role within our Special Olympics movement?
Excellent. Like you said, my name's Sergeant Bill Devine. I am a sergeant here in Tinley Park, Illinois. I am also the director of the Law Enforcement Torch Run. My connection to the Special Olympic community actually started about 25 years ago when I first started with Tinley Park PD. At the time shortly after I got hired, we had the torch run actually come through town. And I participated in the run. You know, at the time, I didn't really think a whole lot of it. It was just like, hey, a cool event to do as a new officer on a department. And, you know, I stayed involved with it. Every year it would come through. But the more it came through, the more I tried to learn about it. And I partnered up with a commander on the department who's a commander now, Stan Tenza, and we decided, you know what, we need to raise some more money for the athletes. So every year we would do some events, raise some money, pass it on. But Daniel, really, it came to my big commitment to Special Olympics and the torch run 15 years ago. My son, Christopher James, was born, and CJ had Down syndrome. You know, and at the time, it was obviously a big shock to me and my wife. But, you know, shortly after his birth, what I did realize was everything we had done before that with the torch run sort of set us up for, you know, our life. And we since then, been actively involved in all the programming, or excuse not programming, all the events. Raised our daughter. We raised a beautiful son who still participates. As a matter of fact, he got a gold medal yesterday in his basketball tournament. So that's what brought me into the community. And now that we're in the community, we don't plan on leaving. We thoroughly enjoy our time with it, the friends we've made, the athletes that we've become friends with, the families we've become friends with, and all the events. It basically became a purpose in life for us at this point.
Awesome. So we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll get into talking all about this year's 2022 Polar Plunge, which is the reason why we're having you on, and get into a little bit of the history and why people and how all of our listeners can join us and take the Polar Plunge. So our guest is Sergeant Bill Devine, the director of the Illinois Law Enforcement Torch Run. Our conversation will continue after the break on SpecialChronicles.com. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation today to learn how you can become a Special Chronicles supporter so we can continue to produce this podcast. Support for Special Chronicles comes from listeners like you. As an independent public media podcast, Special Chronicles will always be there for you. Now we're asking you to be there for us. As a nonprofit independent media organization, we can only make programs like Special Chronicles with listener support. Our programs provide weekly, candid, honest, and inspiring conversations about the people with disabilities community that creates awareness, support, and advocacy within each week's episode. Listeners tell us our shows are an enjoyable and necessary podcast for the intellectual and developmental disability community and everyone else who is able to listen to stories about life from a different angle. Please, if you and your family love our weekly podcast, make a one-time, monthly, or annual gift of thanks today. Support this podcast at specialchronicles.com/give. That's specialchronicles.com/give. And now, back to the show to continue the conversation today. And back to the show. Our guest this week on the Special Chronicles show is Sergeant Bill Devine, the director of the Illinois Law Enforcement Torch Run. And I'm sure some of our listeners, because we've done some podcasts in the past, talking about the Polar Plunge. I think last year we had Jim on when we broadcasted one of our Polar Plunge episodes, but I'm sure there might be some new listeners that might be wondering what is the Polar Plunge. Can you kind of bring it back down to the basics of what is the Polar Plunge?
Absolutely. The Polar Plunge in of itself it's one of our unique fundraisers that we hold, part of the Law Enforcement Torch Run and Special Olympics. It's basically an event where it pretty much sounds like it says, Polar Plunge. Try to find this coldest time of the year, find a body of water that we could all jump in with swimsuits, nothing more, nothing less, see how much money we can raise. And that's our goal. And it's pretty much it in a nutshell. Just a cold body of water, some crazy people with a heart and a desire to raise money for our athletes.
Yeah. I know it's really, it's really powerful that we have so many people plunging. I know myself and some other athletes have also plunged alongside you guys. I think I did the super plunge with Dave a couple years ago, and I've done a couple other local plunges in Oak Brook, and so how long have you been plunging? Because I think in the pre-show you said not as long as the Polar Plunge has been the event's been happening, but
I haven't been a part of the first Polar Plunges, but I did my first Polar Plunge. My guess is probably around 2000. actually it was up in Lake Bluff. My chief, I saw it online. I saw what they were doing. I thought, you know what, I pretty much not afraid of doing anything. I brought it to my chief at the time, said, hey, do you mind if I go up to Lake Bluff, represent the Tinley Park Police Department at the plunge? I went up there by myself with the wife, jumped into Lake Michigan. And at the time, I think I raised about $1,800.
Awesome.
Came back and, again, it was a unique experience, but then I took a break again after after CJ was born, took a little bit of time off. And then probably about 2 years back into it, I got approached by the leg leader of Leg 9, Dennis Riley, approached me about doing a super plunge.
Yeah.
So 12 years ago, I began my journey down the super plunge road, that bumpy road that it is. And at that year, if you don't know what the super plunge is, super plunge used to be held up at Lake Michigan, up at Northwestern University. We would camp out on a beach. We would have tents set up. And basically every hour on the hour, we would run into water. Regardless of how cold it was out, if it was snowing, if it was windy, if it was freezing, for 24 hours straight, we would run into water and run back out of the water. So my participation, you could say I did 13 total plunges, but 12 of them have been strictly the Polar Plunge, following the super plunge model.
Yeah, awesome. So why do you believe that so many law enforcement officers like yourself and even others in the community, whether it's other athletes like myself or other people in the community, are being brave and getting cold and taking that Polar Plunge, whether it's one time or for the people like yourself that have done the super plunge 24 times? What do you think so many people will keep doing this year after year?
Year after the biggest and most heartfelt reason is it's because of the athletes. Anybody that has met an athlete, has watched a event, has hung a medal around an athlete's neck, or just met their family and truly see what Special Olympics means to them. That's the reason we do it, hands down, without a doubt. It's for the athletes, and it's again the love of what they do and their perseverance. Why so many law enforcement officers get dragged into it? We're all alpha people. We all like to do different events. We all like to be challenged. And there's probably no better challenge than to challenge somebody to say, hey, we're going to jump in frozen water in February wearing only a swimsuit. Are you up for it?
Yeah.
And it is, we are very competitive amongst our own officers in departments, outside of departments. And the last thing you want to do is be able to be the guy that says, no, I won't do that. So if you put the challenge out to another officer, there's a reasonable expectation that they'll pick it up and they'll run with it. So that's where and it's the same in the community. Once you've done it and you've experienced it and you've seen, again, like you said, you came out the 1 year and to meet the athletes and see them, it's you're hooked. And then once you do it, it's hard not to do it again. And more than likely, you try to go out and you try to recruit more people for the movement.
Awesome. Well, the history might be a little bit of the history of the Polar Plunge might be a little bit difficult one to talk about, but thankfully you have somebody either in your ear or kind of in your ear giving you information, and so kind of now talk a little bit about when and where the plunge broke the ice and an overview of the past 23 years since the Polar Plunge inception, which started in 1999 all the way till 2021, and now this year. Well, we'll get into this year in just a little bit, but give us an overview of the past 23 years of the.
Yeah. I was informed because, again, I wasn't there in the first one, but I was informed back in 1999, the first Polar Plunge started up in Lake Bluff, Illinois, which is up on the north shore of Illinois on Lake Michigan. The first year, they had approximately 150 plungers, and at the time, they raised about $30,000. From that single event, it now has morphed every year just continually grew. More locations, more events throughout, the winter period, and again to a super plunge. So back in 1999 it started, and we're still going strong today.
Awesome. Well, what's in if our listeners we call last year was a little bit different of a polar plunge, and I'm sure this year will be might be similar to last year's plunge. But talk to us now about what's new this year in 2022 and how our listeners can plunge. If our listeners go to plungeillinois.com, they can see that there's different ways to plunge, either plunging our way, plunging their own way. There's a cool school challenge, or they can support a plunger. Talk to us a little bit now about what's new this year.
Yeah.
With the plunge.
You know what they always say, that growth comes through challenges. The challenge of last year, again, unfortunately with COVID, we weren't able to do our location plunges, which forced us and the administration and board to rethink about how to keep the movement going, how to keep these plunges going. With that, at that time we created the Plunge at Home program. This year, what's new and exciting is we're back to the lakes. So not only are we back in the lake to our traditional plunges, which everybody has, come to love, we also kept the at-home model. So our ability to reach more people that may not be able to get to a target location can still participate. So throughout the state, no matter what corner of the world you're in, you can do this, which is exciting. Now we have the options, more options now than we've ever had in a single year. So that's new and exciting. Hopefully we could get out and get everybody involved, get everybody back on board, and let's get this back to where it should be.
Awesome. So we're gonna put links in the show notes, but if you're watching the live stream video version on YouTube, you'll see on the screen plungeillinois.com is where people can go to either register to plunge themselves or to support a plunger, right?
Correct.
Awesome. So what does it take for our listeners? I know I've plunged in the past, just like yourself. But for anyone new who might not want to take that first plunge, but what would you say to encourage somebody to plunge themselves? What does it take to be a plunger?
Mind over matter. It doesn't really take. I'm not going to make it out that it's this great, crazy thing. It is crazy to jump in water, but I know everybody can do it. To be a plunger, you just have to have the heart. You have to have the desire to want to help people, to do what's right, raise some money. As you can see by the sweatshirt you're wearing, we give out nice sweatshirts. So it's the heart and the desire to, make a difference in the world. That's pretty much all you need. And find a body of water, whether it's from your hose or from a lake. So it's not a whole lot. It's just the heart. You're the big thing. We all have one. It's just how we use it. Yeah,
and I know definitely after plunging, it's nice to have this sweatshirt to warm up after being going
absolutely
underwater in that cold water, because I know a lot of us will actually, and I'm sure you as well, will go physically under the ice or under the water, right?
Yes.
And you plunge that way. Well, is there some people that might just run in and then run out, or do a lot of people actually basically get themselves all wet and go all the way?
We have a little bit of everything. My challenge is to everybody, we call it a polar plunge. Plunge insinuates that you are going underwater. I don't make fun of them, but I like to give the people with me that don't go underwater that it's not a polar walk.
Yeah.
It's not walk in, walk out. The idea is to feel the rush of the cold water over you. So, but no, I mean, everything's accepted. If somebody wants to, young kids might be scared to go under, but you know what? If they go up to their waist, they're making an impact. So we welcome everybody. I encourage everybody to do the Polar Plunge and go under, so you get a true feeling of what it is.
Yeah.
And that way you get a little bit of bragging rights too. Bragging rights definitely come to those who go under the water.
Absolutely. So speaking of that impact, before we take on our next break and wrap up this episode, speaking of that impact, can you talk to us about the icing on the lake? Of what's the purpose of the plunge? You talked a little bit about how people can plunge, but now, what's the purpose of the Polar Plunge?
The icing on the cake, for me personally, I go personally, and what I think it should be for me. The icing on the cake is every time I have contact with an athlete, every time I go to a Special Olympic event and see all of our athletes competing on all different levels, in the sportsmanship, the friendships, that for me is without a doubt the icing on the lake for me that drives me every year back into this water. I know how not only it impacts the athletes, but I also know on the personal level with CJ, the impact it has on families. And there's a lot of families that Special Olympics provides great support for. So for me, that's the icing on the lake. For everybody else, everybody has their own motives, but I'd be willing to bet the motive, probably that big underlining motive, I guess is the word I'm looking for, is it's doing the right thing at this time. We got obviously a lot of turmoil going on throughout the crazy world, but there's nothing better than having a purpose. And for those people that plunge, you know what their purpose is. Their purpose is to help and to help our organization. But also besides the helping through financially, it's also the inclusion, because a lot of these people bring their families. Yeah. And it might be the first time that their kids are exposed to an athlete, and again, just to see that and break the ice of that, it's immeasurable. So that, I'm going to venture to guess, is probably, if you took a poll, would be the icing on the lake for a lot of other people. So, we all have our own motives, but if you do the Polar Plunge, obviously you have the right motive. Yeah,
neat. So we're going to go ahead and take one more break. And when we come back, we'll get into some advice and some more advice to hopefully encourage our listeners to plunge, and some final thoughts as we wrap up the episode after this final break. Our guest is Bill Devine, the director of the Illinois Law Enforcement Torch Run. We'll be back on SpecialChronicles.com after the break. And hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break from our conversation today to hear a message from our partner. Support for Special Chronicles comes from ComEd. Special Chronicles is proud to partner with the ComEd Energy Force Ambassador Program. The Energy Force is the country's first energy efficiency education program designed for and taught by people with disabilities. ComEd is powering lives, and really is powering us here at Special Chronicles to keep the lights on and our technology is powered on. As ComEd powers the lives of us, they're literally giving a voice to people with special needs. We thank ComEd for the generous support of our mission at Special Chronicles. Learn more at specialchronicles.com/ComEd. That's specialchronicles.com/ComEd. And now we return to our conversation. This episode continues right now. Our guest is Bill Devine, director of the Illinois Law Enforcement Torch Run. This is episode 465 of the Special Chronicles show. Hopefully I got that number correct. Hundreds of podcasts, hard to keep track of all the episodes, but advice for others to get involved in, if there are any people that want to get involved in the law enforcement torch run, and particularly in the Polar Plunge, which is what we're talking about on the show this week. What would you say to encourage people to get involved, and why they should be bold and get cold and take the Polar Plunge?
Absolutely. To the advice for people that want to get involved, particularly, I'll touch on the Polar Plunges first. If you're interested in getting involved in the Polar Plunges, the best resource we have is go to plungeillinois.com. At that site, you will find all the resources needed to get started. It will include how to register yourself. It will give you advice on how to raise money. It'll give you chances to pick your location, set up a fundraising page. And again, all the information. More importantly on there, though, it'll also cover what plunge to choose. Again, we have the Plunge Our Way, which is one of our 23 locations throughout the state. You could pick one close to your house. All the dates, the times are on there. Pick it, show up, start raising your money, jump in the water for us. We have the Plunge Your Way, which is what I do. I set up a pool at my police department because we're not at Lake Michigan anymore with the Super Plunge. So I set up a pool at my police department. Our fire department comes up, fills it up with water out of the fire hydrant, which is cold. Let it sit for a good 24 hours. And me and a bunch of officers from the department, we begin our Polar Plunge. So there's other ways of doing it. Run through a sprinkler, have somebody dump cold water on your head, slip and slides, again, lakes, pools, anywhere you can find a body of water that is outdoors, you can do it under Plunge Your Way. To anybody out there in the schools, we have the Cool School Challenge, where you can get your entire school involved, set up a page for your school, start raising money. And then what we ask is that you challenge a neighboring school to likewise join on. Not 100% sure, but I know in the past we've awarded trophies to different schools who raise the most money. So there's lots of ways you can get involved. Also, we also understand that not everybody can plunge. Medically, you might not just be able to go into, limitations set health-wise, but that doesn't mean you can't be a part of it. You could go to the website, choose a plunger to support, make a donation on their behalf. And in my eyes, you did just as good as anybody that went into water. As far as other torch run events, we have the Special Olympic website, the Law Enforcement Torch Run. We have our own drop down. We have our own page. On there, you'll find information throughout the year for our Coffee for Champions, which is our partnership with Dunkin' Donuts. Every year, cops throughout the state camp will set up on Dunkin' Donuts. We raise money through there. We do the 5-0 at the Dirty-O, which is a race down at the Joliet Speedway. Officers make turn squad cars into race cars. We go out and have a great night. Part of their demolition derby program. We have events throughout the year. One thing with law enforcement, if there's a will, there's a way, and we're going to find a way to raise money. But we do truck convoys. Departments do bowling events, trivia nights. If you want to get involved, there is ample opportunity to get involved. And again, the Special Olympic Illinois website, great resource. Again, not only for the Polar Plunges and the different ways we could do it, but again, also for just our traditional yearly torch run events. And everybody's invited. Everybody's invited.
Awesome. So we'll put all those links in the show notes. And if they go to the soillo.org, then they can from there they can find information about the torch one, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right, so we're going to go ahead and take one final break. When we come back, we'll get to some final thoughts as we wrap up this episode. Our guest is Bill Devine, and we'll be back on SpecialChronicles.com. Hey, friends, podcast listener friends. I'd like to take a brief moment to let you know about how awesome StreamYard is. StreamYard is the easiest way to create professional live streams. StreamYard is a live streaming studio in your browser. Interview guests, share your screen, and much more. Stream directly to Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and other platforms. Sign up for StreamYard and get $10 in credit with our referral link at specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. You see the link right below on the screen here, and also will be in the show notes in the description below. But all of us at Special Chronicles, we love StreamYard. I've got a coffee mug I'm drinking coffee out of. Got a t-shirt on. I've got a sweatshirt. This StreamYard pedals. plush duck, Puddles the duck, here in the studio, and just really love it. Makes really love StreamYard. It makes it easy to connect with guests. Just send guests the link to join StreamYard, and easily have a professional logo and banners and graphics, and it just makes it easy to pre-record, to live stream on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Really love StreamYard. It's helped to make the audio podcasts and the video versions of the audio podcasts that I've been doing for the past 13 years. It's helped to make the video versions up to the next level, to a more professional level, while also making it easy to live stream. So all of us at Special Chronicles love StreamYard. Once again, if you want to sign up with StreamYard, specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard to sign up and get 10,000 credit with our referral link. I hope you all will sign up for StreamYard, and happy live streaming. And until then, sign up for StreamYard and get 10,000 credit with our referral link at specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. That's specialchronicles.com/StreamYard. And now back to the show. Our guest, I did a quick costume change to come back. Probably didn't even notice that I changed. The audio podcast listeners definitely didn't notice I changed. Our guest is Bill Devine, director of the Illinois Law Enforcement Torch Run. And as we come to a close now, Bill, so you can get back to work, and our listeners can get back to the rest of the day. Do you have any final thoughts on your overall time here today on the Special Chronicles show that you'd like to share with our listeners?
First, I just have to thank you for your time, for your invitation, not only to promote the Torch Run and our Polar Plunge, but also, you talked to earlier, what drives people to do things. And I gotta be completely honest with you, Dan. Listening to that last commercial, for 13 years now, you've had a podcast, and as you said through the commercial, now you're on video podcast.
Yeah.
You inspire me as much as anybody. Your ability, what you've overcome, what you do, your knowledge of technology is 100 times what mine is. You talk about stuff prior to us going live that I don't even know where to even begin. So just to spend time with you right now has been an honor. Inspiring, again. Guys like you and girls like you that weren't going to sit back and let this define their lives and push forward. I know you work at United. I mean, there's so many different levels that guys like you are the reason we do what we do, and I thank you for that. I would love to be a guest anytime you need to fill some topics.
Yeah.
We could talk about anything. I pretty much can work my way through most stuff. So that's my final thoughts as far as the sitting here with you today. I can't thank you enough. It's been an honor. But just final, as far as Polar Plunges, the motto we have, it's not where you plunge. It's not how you plunge. It's just the fact that you do plunge. We don't care if it's in your backyard. We don't care if it's in a bathtub you threw out in your yard because it's garbage. Fill it with water, fill it with snow, jump on in it. If you got a beautiful lake behind your house, jump in it. You got a swimming pool, just do it. Not to steal any Nike slogans. I don't want to get you in trouble for copywriting, but just do it. Let's get back out. Let's make 2022 the best year we've ever had for our athletes, and to make 2022 the best year we've had just as a nation. And events like this can really put that ball in motion. So again, I thank you for the honor of being here with you today.
Awesome.
I'm going to leave it on that one.
Awesome.
Thank you for the honor.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and I'm sure we'll have to have you back on to talk about some other law enforcement Torch Run events later this year, and with the person in your ear, we can talk about that off the podcast. But to remind our listeners of where they can go to plunge and follow the Illinois Law Enforcement Torch Run, plungeillinois.com. Right?
Absolutely.
And then on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, it's at Illinois LETL, right? And then Special Olympics Illinois on Facebook and Instagram, and SO_Illinois on Twitter, and SOIL.org. We'll put all those links to how you can plunge in the show notes in the description below. And one final question I always conclude these conversations with, and it's a powerful way to end our time together. As you know, inclusion is a big part. The inclusion revolution is a big part of Special Olympics. And to introduce that final question, we've got a bumper. So let's go and roll that.
We're not just athletes.
We are the ambassadors of an uprising.
Peaceful protesters.
In a rebellion against anyone
who has a fear of difference.
Difference.
Our demands are
Equality.
Dignity.
And the recognition of our
shared humanity.
We will not stop
or accept anything less.
Today, our world is
more divided than ever.
And coming together has never been more urgent.
The revolution
is inclusion.
Find out more at jointherevolution.org.
So the final question as we conclude our time together today is talking about inclusion. What does inclusion mean to you?
Inclusion to me is a very powerful word. Basically equality, that everybody is born with, the same rights. Everybody should have the same rights when you're born into this world. It shouldn't be defined on abilities, inabilities. It shouldn't be defined on race. It shouldn't be defined on gender. It shouldn't be defined on even where you're born, whether you're born in, the United States versus, another country. So for me, it's basically dignity and humanity, that we all treat each other with respect. We look past any differences we might have and put that lending hand out to, pick people up when they need the help and, to stand with them next to them when they just need a friend.
Awesome. Well, that's a powerful way to end. Thank you again, Bill, for taking the time to come on the Special Chronicles show. Our guest has been Bill Devine, the director of the Illinois Law Enforcement Torchwood, and I'm sure we'll have you on again to talk about more law enforcement Torchwood events later this year. So thank you again for
look forward to it. Thank you.
And once again, specialchronicles.com for links to follow Special Chronicles on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Make sure to also do what you do with these podcasts, subscribe or follow and rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also subscribe to our channel on YouTube if you want to see us side by side and actually see what we look like. You can subscribe to our channel on YouTube, Special Chronicles, to watch the live stream video episode. We go live every Monday, 6 p.m. Central Time. And you can also sign up for our newsletter to receive exclusive bonus content delivered to your inbox. Once again, specialchronicles.com for links to subscribe and follow. And we'll be back next week and every week on Mondays, 6 p.m. Central, with another exciting episode. And until then, remember choose to include. We'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Chronicles Shows podcast. Visit specialchronicles.com to follow Special Chronicles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube, and don't forget to hit the bell to be notified of new episodes. Also, subscribe to our newsletter mailing list to sign up for our updates and get exclusive content delivered to your inbox. Remember to do what you do with these podcasts. Subscribe or follow and rate and review Special Chronicles on Apple Podcasts, the iHeartRadio app, or wherever you get your podcasts. Finally, please share this episode and all of our podcasts with your friends and family. Help us grow our audience and reach 5,000 downloads of our audio podcasts and over 14,000 average monthly listeners. Have a great week, and we'll see you back here next week with exciting new guests. See you next week.
Special Chronicles, giving respect and a voice to people with special needs.